Hi everyone, today we're diving into our predictions for the upcoming Gcse Anglo-Saxon and Norman England exam. We will be breaking down what's most likely to come up and how you can do well for it. Before we move on, let me share something that would be really critical for you. Content summary and top grade models answers written by our teachers. You can find a whole range of these resources at kingsbridgeeducation.co.uk. You can also find the link below. Now let's break down how we actually make these predictions. Here's how it works. First, we look at frequency. We look at how often certain syllabus points have come up in the past. If something's been tested a lot, it might be less likely to appear again, or it could be a recurring favourite. Then we look at recency. We also check how recently a topic appeared. If it came up just last year, it's less likely to show up again immediately. Finally, we look at notable gaps. We scan for gaps in key parts of the syllabus that haven't been tested in a while. All three help us build a smart, evidence-based predictions. Now let's first look at what topics tend to be frequently tested. These are topics that you should definitely know well, since examiners like to test them often. Looking back at the papers from 2021, 2022, 2023 and 2024, a few themes definitely stand out. First, take note that Norman control is big. They seem to love asking how William the Conqueror actually managed to take control and keep it. Questions about castles pop up quite a bit, why they were built, their importance, as well as how William rewarded his followers and dealt with rebellions. Second, note the power struggles galore. The drama around who got the throne in 1066 is a regular feature. Think about the different claimants like Edgar the Atheling, who came up recently, and the power of the Godwins. Even later struggles, like the tricky relationship between William and his son Robert, have been tested in the last couple of years. Finally, keep an eye on key events. Major events like the Battle of Hastings, features of the fighting, and the Battle of Stamford Bridge, why Harold won, have had their moments. Now, for the interesting part, what might be overdue? If certain topics have been asked a lot recently, especially in the big 12 or 16 mark questions, the examiners might decide to focus elsewhere next time to cover more of the syllabus. First up on what's overdue, we have the feudal system. The specific features and mechanics of feudalism, such as hierarchy, tenants-in-chief, knights, landholding, homage, knight service, labour service, forfeiture, represent a fundamental aspect of the Norman settlement that has not been the explicit focus of a high mark question recently. Its importance in restructuring English society and consolidating royal power makes it a very strong candidate, potentially for a 12-mark question. Explain why William I introduced the feudal system. Or a 16-mark question. The introduction of the feudal system was the main way William I controlled England after 1070. How far do you agree? Next up, on what's overdue, we have the normalisation of the church. Focus on the roles of Stigand and Lanfranc. Lanfranc's specific reforms, the replacement of Anglo-Saxon clergy, and the changing relationship between the Church, the King, and the papacy. This core institutional change has significant syllabus weight, but lacks recent detailed assessment. It is highly suitable for a 12-mark question, such as explain why the English Church was reformed after the Norman conquest. It is also suitable for a 16-mark evaluation, such as Lanfranc's reforms were the most significant change affecting the Church in England during William I's reign. How far do you agree? We would also strongly encourage you to focus on the Revolt of the Earls of 1075. This Norman-led revolt is a significant event demonstrating challenges to William's rule from within his own ranks. Its complete absence from the 2021 to 2024 papers makes it a prime candidate. It could form the basis of a 12-mark question. Explain why the Revolt of the Earls in 1075 failed, or a 16-mark question assessing its significance relative to other threats. The Revolt of the Earls was the most serious threat to William the Usher's control of England after 1071. How far do you agree? Also, we highly recommend you look into the Domesday Book. While used as stimulus in 2022, the Domesday survey's purpose, creation, content, and overall significance for Norman government and finance warrant a dedicated question. It is well suited for a 12-mark question. Explain why the Domesday survey was undertaken in 1085 to 86, or a 16-mark evaluation. The main purpose of the Domesday Book was to increase William Futter's tax revenue. How far do you agree? Finally, another topic long overdue is changes in land ownership from 1066 to 1087. The profound shift in landholding from Anglo-Saxons to Normans underpinned much of the social and political change of the era. While touched upon as a cause of revolt, the process and extent of this change across the period could be the focus of a 12-mark. Explain why land ownership in England changed so dramatically between 1066 and 1087, or a 16-mark question. The loss of land was the most significant consequence of the Norman conquest for the English aristocracy. How far do you agree? Therefore, the most likely candidates for significant assessment include the detailed workings and impact of the feudal system, the Normanisation of the Church, particularly Lanfranc's role and reforms, the revolt of the Earls in 1075 as a case study of Norman resistance, the purpose and significance of the Domesday Book, the nature and extent of changes in land ownership between 1066 and 1087. Let's finish with the golden rules, the non-negotiables if you're aiming for top marks in GCSE history. First, cover everything if you can. Predictions are helpful, but don't rely on them alone. Second, know your question types inside out. It's not just what you know, it's how you apply it. And third, study real answers. This is where most students go wrong. They revise the content, but they never see what a top grade answer actually looks like. That's exactly why the resources at Kingsbridge are so valuable. They break down top answers for you. Good luck.